Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody, to our first Canadian webinar. We are really, really excited to have you here, and we will be showcasing really what we're seeing in the Canadian market, why we're so excited to be partnering with Canadian firms, and we'll also be giving you a kind of a sneak peek of some of our Canadian equity and fixed income capabilities. Before we get started, a little bit about myself. My name is Alex Hunter. I've been in the investment management industry for over 7 years. I spent my time in BPO and kind of middle office services, as well as supporting clients with their trade lifecycle technology. And what I found is clients really were wanting more control over their data. They were really looking for a way to use agentic AI in investment operations. And so I've partnered with Ridgeline to really bring that to the Canadian market. And I'm a true believer that Ridgeline has a unique approach to really help our clients use AI in their day-to-day work. With me, I have Jean Ray, who is one of our head solution consultants, and I will have him introduce himself.
Great. Thanks, Alex. I've been in the industry about 30 years now. I spent about 10 years as a practitioner working for Roxbury Capital as a trader and portfolio manager on both the equity and fixed income sides of the house. Last 20 years, I've been in investment technology, really supporting both institutional asset managers and wealth managers, helping them to leverage technology, not only data, but AI, to make their businesses more operationally efficient and to help them grow their business.
Thank you, Jean Ray. Before we get started, I wanted to walk you guys through kind of, what is our perspective, what we're seeing in the market, and give you a bit of an overview of the platform before we get into the technology demonstration today. What we were really started to begin was kind of solving the issues that we see across the industry, whether it be fragmented data, whether it be disconnected processes, disconnected systems. And we've really brought together, very strong patient capital with some of the industry expertise to really build an entire investment management platform on a clean sheet of paper. And today we have over 73 customers and just under 700 billion in assets under management. And one of the key few reasons that we're super excited to be joining the Canadian market is just what we're seeing. Clients have significant escalating expectations, whether that's on the institutional side, whether that's on the wealth side. I like to call it the Wealth Simple effect. It's an organization, everyone's heard of it, that's really rising the client expectation. Everybody wants data at their fingertips. Everyone wants things to work now and be able to see everything. And what we're seeing is that expanding to the wealth side. Obviously, clients are no longer okay with seeing their performance data kind of updated, in a lag. Also on the institutional side, clients are wanting to have more and more touch points and have kind of being able to answer questions right away. The other thing that we're seeing in the Canadian market is just the decreasing margins and the fee pressure. ETFs are really driving the basket. We're seeing things like direct indexing. Clients are really looking at ways that they can decrease their costs and be able to combat this ongoing fee pressure that they see. The other thing that we see is just new vehicle and product offerings, whether it's a new sub-advisor relationship that you have, or maybe you're launching an ETF. Clients are really demanding and needing to do more different offerings and being able to have an environment that supports that. And I think the final one is everyone's just looking for lean growth as an essential strategy. And ultimately, how do we use AI to be able to continue to grow without having to add so much burden as the different pressures that we see across our business? What we see from a Canadian technology landscape perspective is, there's very strong platforms that handle things like portfolio accounting. There's very strong platforms that are handling the advisor or wealth side of the business. We're seeing platforms that are really good from a compliance perspective. But what that means is it leaves gaps, and clients have had to purchase multiple different systems to be able to support their business, whether it's on the institutional side or even on the wealth side. But none of these systems are speaking together. And what that means is, people are spending time with VBA scripts and macros. People are having to take data back and forth and clean it up. There's no real unified vision of the business, unified kind of exposure of everything that's going on. And ultimately, what that means is AI is unable to work in these environments, and people aren't able to kind of use agents in their day-to-day work. And when we think about how we've approached this differently at Ridgeline, we started with that clean sheet of paper, and we've started with that unified data model. And so that means that you have one set of positions, you have one average cost record across the platform, you have one set of client data, and you're able to see that one source of truth of cash throughout the platform. And that's really built also with an enterprise focus. So we have capabilities like global search, we have automated workflows, so everyone's kind of using the platform. And we also have something that's extremely important as we enter into this AI world, which is you're only able to see the data that's required for you. And we have a full audit trail of everything that's happening within the platform. Today, we'll be showing you our global equities and fixed income capabilities, but we do support all asset classes in the platform. And JR and I would welcome the opportunity to talk to you about that further. And then as you can see, kind of from left to right, we do support all different aspects of an investment manager's business. And what you'll see just in a few moments is how exciting it is to have kind of all of your data and all of your distant systems in one platform to really enable AI, but just enable efficiency across the board. And the last thing I'll touch on is just on that AI side. We do have different ways that we could support our clients. So we do like to use agents across the board, and we do have different options where Ridgeline can provide the agents, or Ridgeline could even manage the agents for you. So different flavors depending on kind of our client's appetite to use AI and get support. So with all that said, JR, we'll pass it over to you, and let's walk through the platform.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate that. One of the things that our customers love about Ridgeline is the fact that it can be configured to support user roles throughout the organization and various personas. Just to illustrate the breadth of the platform, as Alex was talking about, it really supports the entire organization, from client service representatives that are either working with customers or those that are out prospecting for new customers, a whole host of CRM capability within Ridgeline, and not only supporting opportunity management, outbound emails, revenue management, even an end investor client portal. Throughout trade order management, we support portfolio modeling, order generation, pre and post trade compliance. And when we think about operations, that's our core. And we effectively have an accounting platform built in with reconciliation, corporate action processing, and transaction processing. And that leads natively into reporting. So whether you're reporting on your GIPS composites and the various performance metrics there, or your end investor monthly and quarterly reporting, it's all supported within Ridgeline, because Ridgeline is that single platform with a unified data model and all the data in one place. To highlight a few areas where the data can be surfaced, and either in a summary format or diving into more detail, one area is dashboards. So here I'm looking at Canadian equity portfolios and having it broken out by GIC sector. I can toggle on any number of different aggregations to slice and dice that information. To the right-hand side here, I've got my Canadian composites, where we're calculating daily performance, and I can see the composite performance as well as the index performance. As I scroll down, I've designed the screen to also show me what's happening on the trade blotter. So to the extent that portfolio manager is generating an order, sending that to a trader for execution, the portfolio manager can monitor how that order is being executed in the marketplace without bugging the trader every 30 seconds to get an update. These dashboards also available on smartphone and tablet, so you can be on the road monitoring this kind of information as well. These dashboards are also highly customizable. And so I've got a number of different views here to support different types of personas and different types of information. We were just looking at our Canadian equity dashboard. And if I navigate down to fixed income, you're going to see what you would expect to see as a fixed income manager, all of the various types of metrics that support fixed income, like duration, convexity, yield to worst, even credit quality here at the strategy level, or I've decided to also expand this by the asset type. So a number of different ways that you can take all that data that's on Ridgeline, aggregate it in a way that best fits your business and your role, and then surface the details as it's most important. Now, Alex mentioned that because we have a unified data model, that we can also support not only AI assistants, but AI agents as well. And to highlight what that looks like, I'm going to click on the little lightning bolt in the upper right-hand portion of the screen. That's going to pull up Ridgeline's universal assistant. You can literally ask it anything. It could be how to do something on Ridgeline. It could be about information on client portfolios. For example, if I type who owns, or let's do it this way, which portfolios own Bank of Montreal BMO as of today. So putting in a natural language prompt, just like as a portfolio manager might ask an operations associate, run me this report to who owns BMO, or give me more information about Bank of Montreal. And the assistant can process that natural language prompt and surface the information in a number of different ways. It could be in the context of text displaying here, it could be running a report for me, or it could be an in-chat report. And to show you how some of our advisory teams are leveraging the AI assistant to prepare for a meeting, I've got a prompt that I ran a little bit earlier that I want to share with you. So if we look back at our Martin Family Trust here and expand this, I simply asked this, help me prepare for a meeting I have with the Martin family. So I put in this as the prompt, and it had a quick clarification. Do you want to see all portfolios within the household? And I said yes. And so it came up with a holding summary. It came up with a table of information listing top 10 positions in the portfolio. And I can navigate in the table here and even switch columns around or define different ways that I want to see the information all within the chat. As I scroll down here, I see things like a most recently processed transaction on the portfolio. And I've asked, why don't you help me prepare for a meeting? What are some key talking points? And it's pulled that out from the portfolio history, the transaction history, as well as the cash history on the portfolio. So a lot that the AI assistant, the agents can do to make you more efficient, to help you better engage with your customers, and to help you grow your business. Now, we mentioned that we have a universal data model within the platform, and that allows us to do things, or allows our customers to do things like universal search. And think of this like a Google search for anything on Ridgeline. So when I start to type in BCIMC here, it's going to ask, well, are you looking for a security related to BCIMC? Are you looking for issuer information? Or perhaps you're looking for a particular portfolio or an actual customer here that you might have within the platform. So if I go to my equity portfolio here, I'm taken naturally and very easily into the client management area within Ridgeline. So for BCIMC here as a customer, I have an overview of the relationship.
Looks like we're getting a question here. We know data sovereignty is becoming a more and more important thing in the market. I just was curious, showing client data like this, storing client data. Is this where do you know where our Ridgeline data is stored?
Yes, so primarily in North America for all of our United States-based customers. It is in multi-regions throughout the US, all based in AWS. For our non-US customers, specifically those in Canada, we do have data centers in the UK. And the reason why we're doing that is because that they have really stringent GDPR requirements. And so we're really operating at the highest level of GDPR, or kind of private information about investor requirements on that data.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's a timely subject, and I'm glad to hear that we have the ability to protect our clients' data and not be reliant on our neighbors down south.
Absolutely. It's a key requirement of our Canadian customers. So hear you loud and clear. Getting back quickly to an overview here, we're looking at the aggregate client level information with regards to the AUM for this particular customer, the change over time. As I scroll down here, I see various strategies that we're managing for BCIMC here, along with custodian bank information and the value of those strategies. And as I scroll down a little bit here as well, I see overviews of the asset allocation of those portfolios, as well as the AUM growth over time. Going back to the portfolio level information here, focusing on the equity portfolio, as I scroll down here, these are effectively the setup parameters of the portfolio. So we can see things like reporting currency. We can see things like any kind of blended benchmarks or benchmarks associated with the portfolio. See things like book currency, average cost, or the accounting methodology on the portfolio. And the real magic here with Ridgeline, if I click this investments button, this is going to summarize data that's typically found in 2 or 3 or even more different platforms. So what we see here is the AUM of this particular portfolio. We see performance being calculated on the fly given my performance state. And I can go back in time and run this from, say, the beginning of the quarter, beginning of the year, and we'll recalculate the performance over different time periods. I'm displaying the performance versus the benchmark over time, growth of the portfolio over time. And then here, a quick snapshot of the portfolio broken out by asset class. And when I open up common stock, I can see the various positions and the percent weights within the portfolio. And as I scroll down a bit further, even seeing things like a summary of the transactions of the portfolio. So whether I'm in client service or portfolio management or operations, I have a great summary of all the key factors of a portfolio all in one place. If I want to surface even more information, I can click Generate Report. This takes the context of that portfolio and brings it into Report Builder. Report Builder is a very powerful tool because it contains all of the data on various data sets throughout the platform. So as I open up my portfolio that I was looking at here, I'm going to see all the underlying equity positions and data points across those equity positions, including things like percent weight, different types of gains in the platform, looking at it from current yield or even projected income. The real power that our customers love here, I'm going to open up this left-hand rail that defines the columns of information and how they're laid out to the right here. But if I wanted to add a new column to this report, if I click Add, click Column, over 850 columns of information I could add here, including any kind of custom fields I might have. And to the extent I might have calculated fields, those are supported as well. So I can create any kind of Excel-like statement, have it stored here in my report library to use it again and again in various reports. So super flexible. And what our customers have told us, this really takes hours out of their weekly, monthly, quarter end processes of downloading data, manipulating it, putting it into some kind of macros, and then kind of running functions on it or running those formulas on it. This allows them to do everything in the platform and instantly surface the data that's most important.
We are getting another question, Jean-Ray. Is there any additional cost with that reporting module? The user here is saying that there is typically an additional cost for them to pull reports with their incumbent. So just wanted to understand how that works with Ridgeline.
Great question, Alex. Ridgeline is an enterprise platform, and we have economic contracts around that same concept. So it is framed as an enterprise platform. There's an enterprise charging model, so there are no user seat licenses. So there's no economic reason why everybody in the firm can't have credentialed access to all of the functionality. And within reporting, it's not sold as a separate module. Ridgeline is a single platform that supports the end-to-end investment management lifecycle. Right? So kind of going back to some of the data that we're seeing here, we're focusing primarily on an institutional equity customer here. Wanted to highlight the fact that Ridgeline supports wealth managers as well. And so if I start to type in Martin family here, it's going to anticipate what I might be looking for. And we'll actually go to the Martin family household. Many of our customers today are what we call hybrid customers, meaning they manage an institutional book of business, but they also have a private client group or a high net worth book of business as well. And so they need specific wealth management tools to support them in that area. So what we're seeing here is the Martin family. This is a household, so we can construct the household to include the matriarch, patriarch, and the children and other relatives as well. And here I'm seeing a summary of information at the household level, and then I can dive into the various household numbers and the various types of accounts that we manage for them as well. Same type of information where we can aggregate it to understand exposure by asset class or growth over time. And the same type of portfolio presentation is also displayed here, where I can see various portfolios that are part of the household. As I click on Laura Martin here to the left, one thing you'll see is highlighting along various sleeves, because we can create various sleeves or sub-portfolios that either support different asset classes or other ways that both advisors like to assemble different portfolios. Navigating across to the right-hand side here, just to dive into a few of the other tabs here, we also support activity or engagement tracking amongst customers as well. So when we think about activities here, these are client engagement activities, whether they be call reports or emails. We have an Outlook plugin to capture any email communication going back and forth. And this left-hand rail really summarizes the interaction that's happening between an advisor or an institutional client service manager and their end investors. So here, notification that a new document was in the client document vault. And we've also got some other conversations here going back and forth between the Martin family and their advisors. So we're capturing these key discussion points. They're here stored and encrypted here within the client record. And then here's another way where we're leveraging client management agentic AI here when I click the little yellow icon to also process any task or workflow within the platform. So this picked up that there was a potential cash flow event coming into the portfolio. And here the AI agent has picked this up, and it's providing me as the human with the ability to say, okay, we've got actually a workflow that we've created for supporting cash flows. I can click run and kind of tee off to my colleagues. We've got various steps in place. And then my colleagues will actually see notifications come either in system here or the next tasks that are on their queue. And they can also see this come into their email and into either Slack or into Teams chat channels as well. So you don't have to be logged into Ridgeline to get that information. So again, when you think about workflow management, data transparency, and transparency into what's happening in the firm, it helps everybody work together in a much more fluid fashion.
Question came in, Jean-Ray. How are these populated? Is this coming through Outlook, or how do these activities flow in here?
Yeah, great question. So a couple of different ways that they can come in. We do have a Microsoft Outlook plugin where you can define what details of the email come in to populate this particular view. You can also kick off these tasks right from Outlook. So you don't even have to be in Ridgeline to say, kick off that new cash flow management workflow. You can also see from the drop down, I can simply enter a new call report or a calendar event or a note here on perhaps a meeting I had with the Martin family and record it that. So a couple more tabs to highlight, and then I'd like to show you a little bit of portfolio management, trading, and then we'll wrap it up with reporting. So a couple of key tabs here under documents. So there are a number of documents that Ridgeline can create, not only invoices, but also client statements. So when you think about month-end and quarterly statements, those can be generated in an automated way and displayed here within the portal. We can easily download those and pull them up to review them. We can also send them to the end-in client portal so that clients can be informed about either new statements they have, about holdings in the portfolio, performance, and so on. And finally, when you think about billing and invoicing, again, all supported within Ridgeline today, such that we can automate the process of either monthly or quarterly billing. So in a few minutes here, I also want to highlight some of the portfolio management and trade execution functionality within Ridgeline. And to do that, I'm going to use my favorites here. And so I'm going to quickly and easily navigate to portfolio modeling. Ridgeline is an intuitive platform that's modern and easy to navigate, just like any website. And so here I've got a couple of different tabs that highlight different strategies I might be managing. This first tab, my Canadian equity tab, is displaying a number of different portfolios. I'm seeing portfolio level metrics here with regards to the market value, cash in the portfolio. And when I open up the portfolio, I see things like the asset allocation. And then within the equity portfolio here, I can see each position. I can see the beginning weight in the portfolio. If I'm using a model, I can see what the model weight is. And then I can also see the drift or the difference between the model and the portfolio. If I wanted to rebalance this portfolio right to the model weights, it's just a couple clicks. I can click the portfolio, click rebalance, a few decisions I can make here to add some parameters around that. Click rebalance again, and I can take this portfolio that might have some dispersion and bring it right in line with the portfolio, generating a bunch of different buys and sells here. And if I review my end drift column, it's all zero because I brought the portfolio back in line with the model. On demand here, I can run compliance on this portfolio. And also, if I tried to send these orders to the trade blotter, compliance would fire off as well. If I don't like what I see, I can also just click clear all edits, and we can go back to the drawing board. Two other scenarios I want to highlight as well here. If I look at my Canadian equity strategy, this is the same universe of portfolios that I'm looking at, but I'm just aggregating the data a little bit differently. So here I've got my asset class aggregation that I'm aggregating by GICS sector. And I can do things like click on the column header to sort highest to lowest or lowest to highest. And so what I'm seeing here is in materials, I've got quite a bit of exposure. I can open up my materials bucket, see the individual positions, and here in Nutrien, I've got quite a weighting here. When I click open Nutrien, I see the various SMAs under Nutrien. So maybe if I wanted to pull this position in, all I have to do is navigate over to my change position column. Maybe I want to take a % off of all positions. So I'm quickly generating my block level order here. So we're actually selling. I see my order quantity at the strategy level and the individual portfolio. Again, I can check compliance on demand and then send these orders to the trade blotter for execution.
We're getting a question coming in that many times, with kind of the settlement and some of the fragmented systems, the cash position as you're trading throughout the day can sometimes go into a negative, and many of our clients struggle to kind of trade throughout the day. Is that something that Ridgeline supports with and kind of giving more visibility to the trading and PM teams?
Absolutely. So I've got other tabs here that can monitor not only my trade date, but my settlement date cash going out in time. And for those markets where you might be buying on a T0 basis, but selling on a T+3 or T+2 basis, we really support that by showing you that offset in settlement date cash to alert you that given that situation, you might actually overdraw those portfolios. So you might have a few additional considerations in your portfolio management changes. A good point. Last example I'd like to provide here is for Canadian fixed income. Been talking quite a bit about equity here. And so we're all aware Ridgeline also supports the trading of FX spots, the booking of FX forwards, and the electronic trading of FX spots as well. So here I'm looking at my fixed income portfolios. Here again, I'm looking at that portfolio by portfolio view, but I have metrics that are key to fixed income, like yield to maturity, duration at the portfolio level. Here, when I open up my portfolio, I'm looking at my various fixed income positions, but then I've decided to break it out by a different type of asset type. So I've got my corporate bonds, I've got some provincials, government bonds, even MBS and real estate investment trusts. So when I open up my corporate bond portfolio here, and I'll expand this to show some more descriptive information, I see information at the security level. I can click on the security itself and get a bit more detail about that individual security here. This is all data that would come from your security master data of choice. Ridgeline is agnostic to that. And I can see position level information with regards to position size and the yield to maturity and duration. If, for example, I want to model out buying an additional 2 million face of this bond, I can simply put that in the order change quantity to generate that buy order. And then at the portfolio level, I can see things like, well, what did our starting yield to maturity and duration look like versus the impact to our end yield to maturity and our end duration. So yield's staying about the same, but we're pushing out duration by about 20 basis points. And again, just like the equity trading example, I can click create all orders, compliance will fire off, and we can stage that order to the trade desk. So I'm just going to do a quick trading example, and then we'll do some reporting and wrap things up here. So I've got notifications that can come up too that I've got new orders on the blotter. You just saw that happen. So I'm going to use my favorites again and navigate to my trading blotter. This is super configurable as well. You can define different tabs of different trading details you'd like to see in different screens here. As you see, as my tabs get displayed, there's conditional formatting to show here buys in blues, sells in red, but you can really custom configure the look and feel of the various tabs here. If I go to my orders here, there's nothing that I've generated here given this particular filter. If I go back to my all orders tab, I see all the orders here that have been run across the firm. When I click an order at the top of the screen here, I see more information about it in the lower portion of the screen. So as I start to execute, I'll see my places and executions. I can see access to crossing networks. I can see allocations. And so one example of executing this particular order, I simply click on the order. I've got a number of different buttons up here. So I can leverage any external EMS connection. I can use any type of algo, place this in any dark pool. Or if I wanted to send this 100% to Jeffries, I click one button and we can go ahead and send this order out into the marketplace for execution. And I'll see all of my fills coming back in the lower portion of the screen. When we think about fixed income here,
we're getting another question coming in. Maybe this is a two-pronged approach that you could answer, but Canadian prime brokers, does Ridgeline support those today? And then majority of Canadian custodians, think of the CIBC Mellons of the world, the State Streets, the national banks. Does Ridgeline have connections with those?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. And so from a trade execution standpoint, we leverage NYFIX as our fix engine, so we can hit any broker via fix, and you can execute high touch, low touch, or if they provide you with any algos, those are supported as well. From a prime brokerage perspective, typically that's an end of day data extract. So really any prime broker, we can configure that data extract so it's in their format to deliver transactions. From a custodian perspective, we leverage a partnership with Gresham Electra, which is a global custodian data aggregator. And so they provide us with feeds on a daily basis for positions, transactions, and cash, and even tax lots for those who need it. And they are a global organization. There are certainly some custodians that aren't on the Gresham network. And in those cases, we've built direct connections to get that information. So FCC, for example, is one of those custodians. let's do a quick fixed income order, and then we'll wrap things up with some reporting and then take any final questions. So I'm on my fixed income blotter here, and in this particular case, I've got my orders broken out by fixed income type. And Ridgeline supports not only the order placement into different execution venues like a TradeWeb, Market Access, but we also support VCon, so Bloomberg VCon orders drop copying back into this blotter. Coming next quarter, we're integrating to Bloomberg TSOCs, again, so you can execute in Bloomberg's markets and have that fill information drop right back into the blotter here. So I have got this TD bond here. If I go ahead and select it, and I want to maybe stage this into Market Access, just like an equity order, I've got a button to the far right portion of the screen. I'm going to go ahead and click Market Access. That's going to stage it into Market Access. I can do all of my dealing in Market Access. I see the status here at the order level and at the placement and fill level. And I've even set up my screen to have additional alerts when different fills come into my blotter. So a number of different ways to focus on fixed income orders and fixed income execution in Ridgeline. So last stop here is reporting. I'm going to use my favorites again to go to reports. The report builder, as you saw earlier, is super flexible, and you can really surface any type of information. Before we saw our holdings detail here for an individual portfolio, we can define the time range over which we're reporting. We can define the entities that we're going to use, whether it's an individual portfolio, a group, or composite. We can also define, what reporting currency we're going to use. We are a dual currency or multi-currency platform. So if we want to report in Canadian dollars and even have that be the default, we can do that as well. We can also define, are we doing our valuation on an existing day or next calendar day, depending if we want to use trade date or settlement date information. So I can redo those parameters and then run my report now. We'll see everything in Canadian dollars as I open up my equity bucket and see both cost and market value information in CAD. When we think about performance, Ridgeline calculates daily performance as well, and there's a number of different ways that we can display it. One way that we can display it is showing it. Let me just collapse my controls there. Here we're looking at a number of different portfolios, and what we're seeing here is data that supports CRM2 reporting requirements. So we're seeing things like the beginning market value at the period. We're seeing any cash flows over the period. And then we can see if there are any expenses related to the portfolios, any income events, say from coupon payments or dividends and so on, any maybe fees that have impacted the performance. And then we see things like the ending value of the portfolio and then the performance calculation of the number of days. So when you think about not only client reporting requirements, but also regulatory requirements, those are all supported within Ridgeline, and you have complete control over how that data is surfaced. So just to wrap things up here, I'm going to go back to my dashboard. Ridgeline is a single platform that has all of the data that you need to support your investment management organization. And we support all of the personas across your organization, really keeping you running in a very highly operationally efficient manner, really helping you operate in a highly operationally efficient manner and empowering you to grow your business. So Ridgeline is available on any web browser on any device. So whether you're on your desktop, laptop, smartphone, tablet, as long as you've got internet access and a web browser, you can access Ridgeline. It's all credentialed access as well. So there are user and role type permissioning. So each of our customers, Ridgeline's customers, the investment manager or wealth manager, can define who has access to what data and if they can actually edit it or it's view only. So we can be very prescriptive as to those credentials and the access.
And I think one thing that makes me super excited is being fully cloud native. Just allows us to release it in just extremely fast cadence. We released over 1,350 features last year, and so the product's getting better weekly. I like to think it's an investment into the future. Buying Ridgeline is just really benefiting from just the firepower that we have behind the platform. Before we wrap up today, I did want to share just a few key housekeeping items for everyone. We actually do have our base camp event happening this September. We do have some Canadian surprises planned. We do have a couple themed Canadian events, and this is a fantastic event to join. Not only have your peers here, but we have industry speakers. We talk a lot about kind of what's happening in the technology landscape and really how investment managers are partnering with Ridgeline to really position their business for the future and really get ahead in the market. And If you wanted to stay in touch, obviously, please get in touch with myself or Jean-Ray. Love to have a conversation. And then you could scan this QR code to find out where Ridgeline is at and any events that we have coming up. We just had an incredible event with Asset Ops, and we do have a number of events, coming up throughout the year. With all that said, thank you so much for your time. Would love to have a conversation with you and wishing you all the best.
Thank you.